They say trust is the foundation of any marriage. For 8 years, Mark and I had built a stable, peaceful life together. 2 wonderful kids, a comfortable routine, and what many would call a perfect marriage. But over time, something felt different. The spark, the excitement, it had been replaced by predictability. And then Chris entered my life. Chris was my boss, charismatic, confident, and with an energy that could light up a room. At first, his charm felt distant, merely professional. "It's just work," I told myself, brushing away any unease. But over time, every interaction began to linger in my mind a little longer. Work conversations extended into late meetings, and though innocent at first, I couldn't ignore the shift within me. Then came the Christmas party, a night that changed everything. Mark was by my side, kind as ever, looking sharp and attentive. But my focus was elsewhere. Across the room, Chris stood tall, exuding his usual magnetic charm. Our glances met occasionally, each one feeling heavier with unspoken meaning. My heart raced, even as I tried to remind myself of the man standing beside me. At one point, I excused myself from Mark. Chris appeared moments later. "Let's head upstairs," he said quietly, mentioning work as an excuse. I followed him without hesitation. The elevator ride was silent, but the air between us was charged. When we reached his office, the low lighting and closed blinds created an atmosphere far from professional. Chris closed the door gently, and everything became clear. He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming yet oddly comforting. "Evelyn, I've been waiting for this moment," he said softly. I didn't respond, but when our lips met, it was as if a dam broke. The tension that had quietly built up over time now spilled out in ways I hadn't imagined. His touch felt like an escape from routine, from the sameness of my days. It awakened something in me that I hadn't felt in years. As his hands gently rested on my waist, the weight of the moment erased all other thoughts from my mind. His breath mingled with mine, every movement slow and deliberate. The space between us seemed to disappear entirely, and the warmth in his gaze drew me in completely. His touch was careful yet intentional, not rushed but deeply meaningful, as if he was rediscovering something long lost. As my eyes closed, it felt like the entire world had reshaped itself around this moment. Time stood still until the door suddenly swung open. Mark's face appeared, his expression a mix of shock and heartbreak. "Evelyn, what is this?" he demanded, his voice shaking. Chris, standing nearby, adjusted his tie with an air of indifference. "Mark, I can explain," I stammered, my voice weak, knowing there was no real explanation that could fix this. Mark's gaze shifted between us. "Explain? At a company party? With your boss?" His words stung, and I could only stand there, frozen. Chris, ever calm, said casually, "Maybe if you paid more attention to her, this wouldn't have happened." Mark's response was swift, his fist connected with Chris's jaw. For a moment, everything felt unreal. Turning to me, Mark's voice broke. "How long?" he asked. I couldn't answer. His expression told me everything was over. "This wasn't a mistake, Evelyn," he said, his tone cold. "You made a choice." In the days that followed, Mark ignored my calls and texts. Rumors quickly spread through the office, and Chris's reputation was damaged. Unable to face the consequences, I left my job. Months later, I sent Mark a letter. "Losing you was the biggest regret of my life." He never replied. That Christmas night marked the end of my marriage and taught me a hard lesson. Trust, once broken, can't be repaired. Mark chose to move on, and I was left to face the weight of my choices, knowing that some lines once crossed can never be undone.